my
And like,
friend actually
they
talked
defend the
about
this and this and that.
Yeah.
And that they probably do get paid.
And also,
So yeah, like I guess for me it was like
That is not really much of a thing with people.
Now we know, like, set up each of us in our lives, like, basically where we were individually before our path really starts to cross. And the forgiveness scene is that thing that drives it. Yeah. So I guess, I don't know, let's look at, like, how we intersect, how we change one another's lives. Because that, at least what comes next for me chronologically is like the biggest turning point, but it feels like just across the board, like, what happens? What changes for us? How we become friends and all that. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about the forgiveness scene, like I can say that at that point in time, like all of this stuff was buried.
Yeah.
Right? Like competence was what I was. Like that's the extent. So the fact that I had made this arrangement with you, and like you had, like we hadn't met regularly, we hadn't done that. Like I assumed you were just angry at me because I hadn't done what I said I was going to do, which was help you and like call you in and like check in with you and all those things.
Yeah. It's funny that you said that you feel, I mean, effectively guilty for not having helped me.
Yeah.
But I mean, awesome. It makes sense because, okay, so, like, obviously, I felt the same way. Like, I hadn't done the thing, so it's just funny that you also felt guilty because it means that we both felt exactly the same, but just in reverse. Because, like, it was the day of the final project's history, right? And you send, like, class ends, and I was going to go, except that I was waiting for Michael, so I get a text from you, like, come talk to me before it's too late. And I wasn't going to do that, and then Michael comes down and convinces me to do it. It's like, go upstairs. And I remember that walk to your office, starting, like, because it's down the hallway, which I guess I'm oriented this way, right? Down that hallway, I was fighting, like, every fiber in my being was screaming at me, like, don't do this. Danger, danger. I'm like, no, absolutely, for no, yeah, do not go. I had to pushing myself, like dragging my heels and body through this. And all the while, my brain is racing to come up with an excuse or a lie or literally anything to explain to you why I hadn't done the things I promised you I would do, because I was afraid walking into that office, I was going to sit down and you were going to ask me what happened, and unless I could come up with something, you were just going to be pissed because you'd done this thing for me, you'd made this offer, and I just had no reason except I just didn't do it. And so I thought it was about to be the biggest slap in the face to you, and you were going to be just livid. And that isn't what happened.
As you walked down that hall, I could see you. I sensed you coming. I saw you sort of peripherally, and I spoke for a fight. Like I prepared, and I armed myself because I was certain that's what it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that either.
No, what was so funny to me is like, I come in and sit down, and you're like on the computer or whatever, and tell me that I like to wait for just a second while you finish it. But I was like, oh good, I get another second to come up with something, a reason.
Yeah, I was telling you that.
Yeah, me too. Glad it worked out well for both of us then. But then you turn and you ask me like, do I have anything to like? You notice that I have anything?
Yeah.
And I open my mouth with the vain hope maybe in this last split second something would come out other than the truth. But I had nothing. And so I open my mouth and out come the words, no, I don't have anything to turn in. And I just broke down because usually I had something to like hold in front of me when somebody had asked me that question, something to defend myself, and I had nothing, so all I could tell you was the truth. And the truth was, I didn't do it, and it hurt, and I was so ready for it to be miserable, and so I just started crying and apologizing for all of it, expecting that you were about to be so angry, and instead of like crucifying me as I anticipated, not only did you not do that, you weren't even just not angry. You apologized to me.
Did. I felt bad. Like, you didn't have a paper to turn in. And the deal we had made the previous semester was that because you struggled with that, you struggled with the organization of the paper, you struggled with how to put that all together, that was what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to like make that possible for you to figure out. And the way we were going to do it was having regular check-ins, and you were in my classes. I could see that wasn't happening, and I didn't reach out to you. I did not help you because I was afraid every single time I didn't do it that you just got more and more upset and angry with me because you started avoiding me completely. Like, you didn't talk to me. Like, you didn't come to rehearsal. You didn't tell me you were going to come to rehearsal. Like, you just disappeared.
Shame's a bitch that way. Yeah, I just blows my mind. Even now, I remember when you apologized to me, feeling like you're apologizing to me for something you had no agency in. Like, you can't make me come to rehearsals. You can't make me come talk to you. So I just remember being the strangest thing. But as you sort of explained what you just did to me, it's just like taken aback. And I guess I just want to, like, do you have any idea how fucking insane it was what you did in that moment? Because every other time I've ever asked for help, and I got plenty of extensions before, plenty of reasons I could come up with for why I didn't do something, and a professor or teacher or parent or whatever would say like, oh, it's okay. But every time it was always an inconvenience for them. It was always like, okay, well, let me lend you this thing, let me do this thing for you, which was clearly something that was disruptive for them. And then if it didn't happen, then they were just like, what the fuck? Like, I did this thing for you. So it was never okay for me to be asking for help, and it was certainly never okay if I didn't take it or didn't work. And just in this moment, like, I break down and open up, and you apologize to me, and it's like, for the first time ever, it was okay. It was okay that I had avoided you because you knew that was what was going to happen, and it was okay because it wasn't my fault. Like, for the first time, it was okay that I was struggling with the thing. Not just that I was getting help getting the thing done, but that it was okay that I was having a difficult time with it in the first place.
It was. And it always was. It always should have been. And the fact that it never was is the thing that surprises me. Right? Like, 'cause that made instantaneous sense. When you said you had ADHD and that you had these struggles, I knew. I was like, okay, well, he's going to need help figuring this out.
Yeah.
And so at no point did I consider that it never happened for you before.
I mean, people tried, but in fairness, like, I usually had something to defend myself with, so I didn't open myself up to that help either. So there's definitely a part of that isn't fair on all the other people, but still, what you did there was fucking, it never happened before. Right? It's just fucking impossible that would happen. And then, better still, like, not only did you do exactly that and sort of just take the pressure off, like, oh, like, this should have always been the thing, then you just sort of, like, laid out, like, you asked me what the problem was, and I explained all the writing stuff, like, how hard it was, and you're like, hey, well, if writing the paper is hard, like, you don't have to do that. Like, if that's not what works for you, just come talk to me about it, present it. And then you laid out the steps for, like, what I should do, how I could go about doing that, and even though I couldn't get full credit, like, I could just go and succeed. It's just like, all of this weight melted off my shoulders, and I had exact plan for what would work for me to be able to do this thing. It wasn't that you made, like, I had gotten help before, like, with somebody that does the thing for me, like, helps me in that regard, or somebody, like, just telling me what to do, but you didn't do that. You just, like, here's some steps that you can take that work for you to be able to succeed in this way. And I went and did it, and I came back to that follow-up meeting and presented my paper to you. And I ended up getting, 2 C's and a B that semester. I've never been more proud of my grades in my life. It was the most triumphant moment in my life to this day. And I got all A's the next year, and I still have nothing. They hold a candle to how good I felt talking to you that second time. I remember we made a plan for the next year, and it was stupid. Sitting back right in your office, and we're making a plan about what would come next year, and I was super committed. I was like, oh fuck yeah, this is gonna work. And the image of like the clouds parting, and like a ray of sunlight came down, and even in the moment, I was like, wow, that's fucking just so stupid. It's such a cheesy image. But sitting there in your office, I was like, I felt like I could see, I felt a future for myself for the first time. I'd never had that before. I never one time thought, oh, I actually have some way to get past these things I've been struggling with. And literally, all it took was for you to, it's why I call it the forgiveness meeting, like the forgiveness meeting, because literally all it took was for you to say, it's okay. It's okay to be struggling with this. Like, it's not a big deal. Let me do this thing for you. Let me tweak this one thing so that you can be successful in these ways on your own. And off I went. And my entire life, I mean, it is a bit dramatic, but my entire life changed that day. Everything from, like, everything that I've been able to do since, all the things that have become possible for me. I'm about, like, I got into MATC with that play, the 10-minute play, right? I'm going to graduate. I've gone from having failed out of college to graduating with honors, assuming, like, nothing goes wrong, thanks to that moment, that day in your office. That was a turning point for me. And it's just tremendous.
I mean, yeah, okay, good. Like, I don't know, like it's hard to be sort of like given that kind of, but
Praise.
yeah, I'm always like resistant when you call it the forgiveness scene because I'm like, I didn't forgive you for anything. Like you hadn't done anything wrong.
Sure felt like I had.
Well, I'm glad that I helped you figure out that you didn't.
It's cliche, but like I owe all of the things that happened to me since to you in that moment. And like all the help that has happened since, just tremendous, like the continued support and all those things. But I mean, like the other stuff, like just building towards us being friends. Like I know that all this has been really helpful to me, but like I know how these things have also started to change things for you.
Yeah, like it was fun to spend time with you that next year because you were so excited about everything. Like all you wanted to do was just like show off, and when you're in show off mode, it's because you are happy and you are proud of what you're doing.
Yeah. I had a terrible poker face.
Yeah, but I mean, it was delightful that was your move. It was wonderful that that's how you like felt. And when you came into meetings and we were talking about things, and even when you struggled and you said like, I don't know how to write this paper, like this moment reminded, like I always remember this moment. You came to me and you were like, for the theater history, this paper, I don't know, I want to write it this time. Like I want to write it. And you had done all this research and you'd read all these articles and you just, in the way that your mind works, like maybe it doesn't work in some ways, but the way that it works really well is retaining information and synthesizing and organizing that information into like a coherent stream of thoughts.
Generous for you to call it coherent.
It is, right? It is. The challenge is not how you think. The challenge is how to get it out of there, right? But you came to me and you said, I don't know how to do this. And we had this, what must have been 2 or 3 hours. I mean, like, this isn't new. It was sort of new at that moment, but basically it didn't. Like, we'd have a meeting that was supposed to last half an hour, and then 6 hours later, we're still talking. But that day, we were talking about your paper, Calderon, the Spanish playwright. Mm-hmm. And you had all these interesting ideas about authorship and translation and what all of that meant. And I just had this great like feeling because I felt like you were my intellectual equal in a lot of ways. Like I could have these like deep conversations in a way that I hadn't had since like grad school. Mm-hmm. About, like there's lots of other PhD people around here, but they're not theater PhD people. They don't get excited by the same kinds of things that I do, but you do. Mm-hmm. And it's just sort of like the development of that, like seeing how that happened, and also just feeling really good that you were feeling good feeling really good that I was doing something, that you, not only that you accepted my help, but that you actively sought it out. It made me feel good because it was like, oh yeah, these things you're teaching, like this is something that people want. This is something that makes a difference. This is something that connects to students, right?
Yeah.
But at that time, right, like it was me helping you, and that was the extent of anything, right? Like the border, the boundary between professor and student, like
Yeah, definitely.
it was very strong that whole time.
But it was funny because you said, like, competence hurt you. Like, I looked up to you in all these ways, and I also realized that, like, transformational as the forgiveness scene was for me. Like, it certainly didn't change anything on those I'm not front for you, and like helping me in those ways. Like, great as it felt, I'm sure it probably didn't make that part any better. But yeah.
But we did become friends.
Yeah.
Not necessarily through like the typical means.
Yeah, a little unorthodox to say the least.
Yeah, like I mean, obviously, like we spent a lot of time talking and getting to know each other and all that, and like, I was helping you with schoolwork and all those things, and but rarely did we ever stray into any sort of personal realm.
Yeah.
But when you came over in the summer, like just this past summer, and yeah, there's online classes that you just were like, I can't get through these alone. I don't know how to do it, right? Because there was no school schedule to organize your time around. There were sort of deadlines in there, but they were so amorphous that for someone like you who has trouble just organizing daily tasks, like it was going to be an impossible thing.
And it was.
And so we started, and it was a rough beginning to that time. Like basically the whole week, there's a 5-week anthropology class, this massive 3-credit thing condensed into 5 weeks, and you take the whole first week off.
Yeah, and then I have 1 week off about these, so I took a 15-week course down, a 15-week course fit down to 5 weeks, down to 3 weeks.
Yeah. But the thing that we discovered that worked was for us to work together, right? Like I worked on my stuff, you worked on your stuff. We worked like simultaneously on separate things, and like you got through that anthropology. I mean, you must have worked 12 hours a day on it sometimes.
Yeah.
But you got through it, and what grade did you get?
I got an A.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like, but in all of that time, like, that's when we started to get to know each other. That's when, like, you don't spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day with somebody and not get to know them. And it was in that you started sensing that that there were things I was hiding, that I was not showing you everything.
Boy, it's funny.
And in your way, you started to poke and prod and pick away at it.
Yeah. I feel bad in retrospect because now I know all these things that I didn't know. That took me 2 years to notice any of them, so I'm sorry. But like the truth is, like, you were good at deflecting, and then just assumed that, like, oh, okay, it's role oriented. It makes sense for a professor to have sort of a natural barrier to opening up to a student. So I just never thought twice about it. But once you started, like, hey, like once we started like talking in the summer and stuff, and we're working this, like, it became like, oh, he actually enjoys my company too, which meant that it was like, oh, he's. I don't know, the thing is, once you find your way out from underneath something for the first time, like, I felt like the superpower that comes with it is realizing, like, oh, I know what that felt like, so I know what it looks like when somebody else has got a barrier up. And so I can see those barriers, and I was like, oh, it's not because he's just a professor and he just wants to maintain, like, he's having a hard time too. So, like, I don't know, I'm impatient, so I started pushing.
I think I had a morbid curiosity at first.
Not even a little bit. I just cared.
But it mattered, right? Like, the thing that needed to happen was the boundaries needed to come down, like the barriers needed to come down. But it hasn't been easy since then. And I resisted and continue to resist your help. And I wish I could say that was not true, but it is. But the time that, like, the thing that really stands out to me was that you found exactly the right way, as you almost always do, to, like, make me understand something. And so the thing that happened was you and I were having some other conversation. You were over at the house, you'd been working all day, and then you said, or like we were talking about my issues, like I was having a bad day, I was sort of mopey, and you were like, what's going on? Like, tell me these things or whatever. And in that conversation, all of a sudden you sort of stopped and you said, like, I just want you to know, like, I love you. And it wasn't romantic, it wasn't anything, it was just one person telling another person, like, it is okay. Like, I care about you, I want to help you, I want to know what's hurting you. And I've never really done that before. I mean, I've never let anybody do that before, really. And it was great. It was just like, oh, wow, maybe it is possible to like somehow find a way to move beyond all of the people from my past that had not, like, relationships that didn't work out, and people that just didn't like me or treated me terribly or whatever. I mean,
That's a lovely way to put the whatever, but yeah, tempered by what, going on 40 years of people not, and you, like, what you did for me in the forgiveness scene is care. And other people care, but like, that helped, like, that was it, just that. And that, you've gone as long as you have without having been open up to and then getting that very same thing, absolutely unacceptable. Ridiculous. So that's what prompted me to push. And keep pushing. And then we became like, but the funny thing about that is like after the summer, like we became friends and like mentor students, like close friends, able to talk about things. And like since then, it's been a process of being able to open up and like learn how to negotiate those things and be able to be vulnerable. And yeah, obviously clearly it hasn't always been easy, but I'm glad to see, I hope anyway, that like some of that has started to shift some of these pains that you carried around the entire time.
yeah, I mean, yes, it has. I mean, it feels to me like I'm still very much in the middle of figuring it all out. And like last semester, this semester, like it's been hard for me to like make it through certain days. But like I have you, I have other people in my life that I truly do believe care about me. So I don't have to be alone with these things, but it's hard to tell my brain that it's okay to be vulnerable with them and to tell them the things that hurt me, and ask for help. I'm rubbish at asking for help.
Preaching to the choir.
But that's what the show will be. I mean, like when we do it, this is what we talk about. This is the stuff that is like us. This is our story. This is the reason why I can stand in this theater and once there's an audience, tell everybody the things I've never said aloud, except basically to you. So
It would be fun to share in a room full of people who at various different levels of how much they know you.
yeah.
Well,
I guess before rehearsal over, like I think maybe one more like exploration.
yeah, sure.
So I was thinking about like just based on the conversation we were just having. Sort of embarrassing to ask this, but like, I sort of want to know. Like, I want to tell you how I feel about you, and I want you to tell me if you want to.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I think that'd be a really nice note to end on. And so graciously, I'll let you go first.
Yes, I'll.
Okay. Do you want to speak to each other? Or do you want to stage this any amount of moment?
I don't know. Let me just do it first and figure it out later.
Okay. I'll sit over here.
Just please keep moving as I prepare to do it.
Welcome.
So you are unexpected. Like I don't think I ever expected that I would have a friend that I could just tell these things to. And in some ways it wasn't even a choice for you. It was just like, you will tell me these things, I will find a way to make it happen. But it was, from the very beginning, I started to recognize like how strong you are. And that even though you struggled and you had these problems and you had these feelings, and that the one thing you never did was give up. Because you could have. You easily could have. You didn't have to come back to school. You didn't have to face this thing that hurt you over and over and over again. But you never gave up, and you still haven't. And you still fight through these things every single day in most cases. And like that strength, that perseverance, that determination is just remarkable. And I respect you very much for that. I'm very proud to have watched you like transform and go from somebody who felt like they didn't have a future to somebody who has unlimited potential now. I mean, you always did, but now you feel like that's true. And I just literally can't express how much it means that you care about me, about many, many other people you care, but like, I'm gonna be selfish, most specifically about me. And
Makes sense.
yeah. But that you care about me, and that you want me to be okay, and that, as weird as it sounds, some of the best days that I've ever had were because you yelled at me. Mostly because I was being an idiot. And I know you don't think that's okay, but it is. Because every time you do it, it shows me that the frustration you have is that you haven't done enough. And that's something that I feel too with you. I'm always like, have I done enough? Have I made sure that Taran has all the barriers cleared so that you can get where you want to go? And like, all I can say is I just love you very much.
I'm glad that in all of that, you care about me because I yell at you, made the list. All right, my turn. I think I can follow mine up. I think I can summarize fairly succinctly. Feed me the question.
How do you feel about me?
I love you. See, nice and simple.
I'm gonna be a little more than that.
Yeah. Well, I feel a little compelled to. I thought it was going to be sort of a quick exchange, but there's no person in this world that I look up to more, and there's no person in this world who has done more for me than you have done for me. The things that you do by accident are things that I just aspire to. The model that I have for how to help people, the way that I know and understand how to care for people, the way that I know how to deal with problems myself, all came by the things that you just sort of like, oh yeah, that thing. It's just by accident that you were able to do all these things. Like, it was not even a big deal. You've been this tremendous beacon of support for me my entire life, or my entire college career here. When I think about you, the person that I see, the person that sits here right now in front of me, is just this incredible person who is caring and compassionate and smart and fucking loves to have conversations about these great things. You're a delight to be around, especially when you're not hurting. But you are truly just fun person to be around. I enjoy every time we've ever gone to go get a drink at the Blue Fox or whatever. I just cannot tell you enough how wonderful it is to be in your company, to share in the company of somebody whom I hold nothing but absolute love and respect for. You matter more to me than anybody can mention that I can think of. I love all of the people in my life, but just are so important. I just love you. And thank you all the time for all of the things you've done, and that you like being my friend, that you're delighted to be that too, added bonus for me. So, yeah.
Why does it have to bend down so much whenever I have you?
That's being off. All right, fine. This seems like a good place to end rehearsal. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. We just leave all this stuff out for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Well, way to end the sincere moment there by with a short joke.
That was for payback for you telling me that your first impression of me that I was stupider than you.
Not the way that I meant it. It was about my arrogance, not about you. Whatever. Whatever.
Defending.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Back at it tomorrow.
Yeah. We're gonna get the lights.
Yeah.
Almost had a show.
Almost. I mean, it's definitely coming along.
Definitely. I suppose it seems only fair, but I told you my first impression of you. You should tell me your first impression of me.
Honestly, my first impression of you was I wasn't very impressed.